Okay.
Hey, we're back.
We're back.
All right, so that previous video.
Yeah, so the previous video we were talking about your wonderful conversation. So it just kind of made me think about the divine feminine energy, masculine energy, and thinking about old conversations I've had with my husband versus the conversations we have now. And it literally was like that. However, it didn't happen like that until I was able to really do the work to know and be clear, like we've talked about in other videos, to be very clear on what it is that I'm observing, what it is that I'm seeing, what is my awareness of it, and then being able to share with my husband without there being any attachment or attacking or blaming or, you know, the old energy around it. Does that make sense? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that, you know, females get a bad rap for being so emotional.
Yes.
But I think the emotional part comes from the woundedness. And kind of like that over emotional kind of hysterical response is really just a wound throwing up on someone.
I'm so glad you said that, because as you're saying that, I'm thinking about the conversations I've had with my husband in the past about his mother, about our relationship, about anything that's sensitive or hard. And the other video we did about my relationship with my dad and my stepmom, every time I talked to my husband about any of those things, I would cry because it was so painful. It was that wound that was just being opened every single time. And I always felt, I hated to have the conversations because I didn't want to cry again. Like I just was like crying all the time. But I'm so glad you said that, because now the conversation I have with my husband is, I can actually have a real conversation with him without crying, sobbing, because then I don't feel like I'm clear enough.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because I'm bringing that whole wound to the whole conversation, and he's just like, I don't know what to do with this.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I don't know what to do with it either, you know?
And that's the experience. And that's the experience men have.
Yeah.
Is they're like, oh my, what is this?
Yeah.
You know, like this feels out of
I don't know
control.
what to do with this.
It's not clear.
Yeah.
Because we're speaking from wounds.
Exactly.
We're not speaking from the work.
Yeah.
The divine feminine, you know that you've kind of done the work and really harnessed
and it's
the divine
that strength
feminine.
that they can feel it.
Exactly.
I feel it. He feels
it's
it.
Clear,
it's amazing.
It's calm.
Yeah.
It's wise.
Yes.
It's intuitive.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not blaming anyone.
No.
It's looking to educate.
Yes.
It's looking for growth. And that is when you know you have harnessed the divine feminine. When you're still in the... It's like, cry. Okay, it's not a moment for him.
No.
You got to go in. Okay, so I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
That,
it's
but
just,
yes.
You're totally right, because I have to be able to do all of that crying, sobbing work first, then be very clear to share with my husband. And then knowing that like it's a safe place for me to even get there.
Yeah.
You know, because before I was terrified because I wasn't feeling safe myself. And so seeing that he's supposed to be the safe person, and he's just like, I don't know what to do with this.
Exactly.
And he's not a very emotional person anyway. So he's probably like, he's like, oh, you cry all the time. And I was like, don't say that.
Yeah.
You know, because again, that's that other like,
exactly.
You know?
Yeah, because we take it as like, oh, we're weak.
Exactly. And
he
even says like a week, like he's not supposed to cry because that's weak.
Right, exactly.
But yeah.
And what we know of the divine feminine, like intuitively, is that is not the right place to come from.
Right.
Like I think we kind of understand that's not the right place to come from.
But until we're clear on it, you really don't know. Like
it's hard to put into words and understand it.
Yeah. So you have to be able to really do the work to get clear on that. And then it's like, okay, if I'm really emotional about something, I know I got to do this work first and then be able to share. And that's that intimacy part. Because I was talking to my husband about this last night. We went away for the weekend, and we actually took his mother and my mother. And if you know me and my husband and his mother, never got along with her. Yeah. And never anything that she did. This is another, one of the other videos that we talked about where the dynamic between my husband and her, and then my dad and my stepmom, and how I felt with it. So talk about a big wound. That was such a big wound that needed to be healed.
Some healing.
Triggered the whole thing, And so I really got to a good place with it, and I think, with her coming this weekend was such a great opportunity for my husband and I to talk about it. And I was really good going into the weekend. And when she came to the house, it was just kind of like, oh, it's great to see her, before I would, and this is so bad, but this is the things that I have had to deal with. I wouldn't look at her in the eye. I wouldn't talk to her. Like, I was so wounded and hurt. And I was a little 10-year-old child again, looking at her and thinking that it's all her. It's her. She's causing all this, right?
Yeah. That's, such a good demonstration of how we think and feel when we're so wounded and we can't look at it. It's the other person. My behavior's justified.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was just like, I'm allowed to behave like this, and all that. And then I tell my husband, So then we go and we're all, we went to Miraval. And, so it's a lot of time together, even though we can do separate classes, but we eat all of our meals together and we, we're around one another. So it's a lot of time together. And was really good up until dinner time. And I started to notice some things, and I was super triggered. There was actually one thing that happened earlier in the day, which maybe I'll talk about in another video, but there was something that triggered me there. So I ended up doing the work on it because I was like, okay, what is this? What is coming up here? I don't know what's going on. So there was that piece. And then we get to dinner, and my husband is basically, and I had talked to him about this before with his mom. I said, I always feel like you think you have to take care of her. You feel like you're responsible for her. And it shows in all the things you do. Like, oh, well, she doesn't know how to drive there. She doesn't know how to anything. It was always like, almost like demeaning her in a sense, like talk about the feminine again. Almost like demeaning her in a sense, like she's not capable because she has a 2nd grade education. Her first language is Spanish. Really, that's it. Like, it's just like, really? Okay. However, when you really get to talk to her and know her, she's been on her own for a very long time. She was the second born out of 10 children. She runs a car wash that she owned previously, but this other guy bought it from her. She runs it. He now owns like 3 or 4 different gas stations, car washes. She's his go-to woman. So she is, she works out 2 hours a day. I mean, like, she's not some little fragile little 72-year-old woman that can't do anything. I mean, it's like you look at her and you're just like, she's got it going on. Yeah. But my husband treats her like this little angel. Oh, you poor little thing, I need to take care of you. Oh, you can't eat that. No, you can't. I mean, it's just like, come on.
Okay, so that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, just to kind of as a side note,
that
is what women rail against, right? It's like, it's not that I'm not capable.
Right.
And so then we shove away the protection, right? Because that protection is coming from like,
oh, you poor little thing. Yeah.
Right? It lacks the reverence. It lacks the respect.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Go on. I'm sorry.
So there's a lot to unpack with that for sure. So as I'm sitting there, so what happened was, what triggered me was, we're sitting at dinner and they give you like a set menu. On the left-hand side is like stuff you can get at like the bar any other time, but they also include it in the dinner menu. So he basically tells her, you're not going to get this side of the menu. You're only going to look here and there because we can get that tomorrow. And I was just like, let her figure it out. If she wants to get it, let her get it. And he's just like, no, Mom, you're not going to, no, you don't want that. You just focus on this. And I was like, honey, it's okay. She can choose what she wants. And he just couldn't handle it. He was just like, she's fine. And then he starts speaking to her in Spanish because then our waiter's Spanish. And I was just like, The other reason why this is a trigger is because my stepmother, with my dad, she was Latvian. So her children all knew Latvian. And they would speak Latvian when I was in the room.
Wow.
So it was a total trigger. Gosh, every time he speaks Spanish to her, and I could never tell my husband, like, this triggers me.
Yes.
Because I don't know if you're talking about me or not. It has nothing to do with your language. It has nothing to do with you and your mother. It's like, I don't know. And to me, that just feels so disrespectful.
Right.
And then because I have no idea what
my... And it was used against you before?
Oh, absolutely.
And
I
so
knew she was talking about me. Yep.
Thing.
Yes.
And now, someone that you love, that you're trying to trust, uses it, and you immediately go there in your mind and in your heart. Okay. Oh,
so there's just all those little wounds, And so that super triggered me that night. But I was like, okay, let it go, let it go, let it go. You know, and I was trying to like really soften it and just being like, okay, but I knew I needed to do work on that later because I was like, okay, what am I triggered about? So then it kind of continued on the rest of the time. So we sit down for breakfast the next day and he orders this juice that we all had and we all loved. And he's like, oh, you want some for the whole table? I said, I'll take one. And my mom got one. And then he's like, well, I'll order one for her too. Just bring her one. And what's funny about it is she didn't even drink it. Mm-hmm. She had drank it all the other times, but she didn't drink it that time. So I was like, what's that about?
Yeah.
And then we go do workouts and stuff, and then they get finished with the class. So they did a lot of classes together, which he and I used to do some classes together, or he would do his own or whatever. So then I started seeing that triggering me again, like, oh, he's now taking her to these classes because he thinks she can't figure out where to go. And I even asked him, I was like, you think she doesn't know how to do a class?
Yeah.
You think I think she can figure it out herself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see them over in the gym, and he's like showing her how to do a workout and showing her how to do like all these stretches. And I'm like, did she ask?
Yeah.
What are you doing? You know? And so I'm just observing this whole thing, and it's just like super triggering. So I finally was like, okay, I got to do the work on this. So last night was Thursday. We got home Monday. I avoided it. I didn't want to talk to him. I really was grappling with it. But there's a whole nother layer there that I'll have to get to in another video because I wasn't able to see any of that yet. I had done the work on it, but I was afraid. I was afraid to share. So last night, we finally shared. And
so is the afraid to share for the other video? Like why you were afraid?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to do that because there's kind of a lot to it.
Okay. All right.
That I don't want to necessarily get into here because I could talk for a long time about it.
Okay. So the afraid will go in another video. Mm-hmm. But you did finally have the conversation.
I did finally have the conversation. And it was so funny because as we were talking before about the divine feminine, I was able to approach the conversation. Yes, I was nervous, but I was able to approach the conversation without tears. I was solid in why I was feeling the way I felt. And then I was able to express to him without blame, without accusing him, any of that.
Or name calling,
anything.
Ridiculous.
You did this. Yes,
Yeah.
like, did you see, how you were treating her?
Yeah.
And he even made a comment, like, because I said, honey, I said something to him. He said, well, I was afraid she was going to get lost. I said, sweetie, she's 72 years old. And if she got lost, do you think she might figure out how to get to where she needed to go? What do you think she'd do? Yeah. She'd probably go ask somebody. Mm-hmm. But you treat her as if she can't do anything on her own. Like, you have to be there. And then I also told him, I said, what's interesting for me is as I'm observing this, you like to be in control. And that's your relationship with her. This relationship that you two have built, she allows it. She allows you to be in control. You love to be in control, so it works great.
Yeah.
However, there's me over here saying, where do I fit in? So when the two of you are together,
wow,
I don't exist. And he's like,
they feed each other.
They do.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
crazy. And I felt it before, but I could not verbalize it.
Wow, that gives me the chills.
Oh,
I mean,
it was
what an insight.
Yes. And I was just like, that's why I feel that way. That's why I constantly feel like it's a competition. That's why I constantly feel like I am the third wheel. And he's like, I'm not doing that on purpose. It's like, I'm so sorry. He's like, I didn't know. He admitted that he was at fault. Because he's like, I didn't even look at it that way. And I said, I didn't even know how to verbalize to tell you that's what I felt.
Yeah.
So
oh my gosh,
it
that's
was like,
amazing.
Wow. This whole thing was, I felt it. And then I blame. And then I think there's something wrong with me. And the two of them, they have nicknames for each other. Like, it was the two of them against the world for a very long time. Even though his father, they were still married, he had cheated on his mother a long time before he finally left. But she wanted his father in his life. So she stayed married to him until he turned 18.
Oh, wow.
And the affair happened many, many years before. And so he wasn't really a father, though. He was very absent. Even though he was there physically, right? Spiritual and emotional, he was checked out.
Yeah.
So it was the two of them, and he's the only child, so she took him everywhere with her. I mean, it's that relationship. And so I told him, I said,
like boundarily, wow. No boundaries.
No boundaries.
Yeah.
Boundaryless.
Yeah, exactly.
Where,
Where it began to be unhealthy.
Yeah. And I think it is. And that's kind of where it's manifested into. Mm-hmm. And so now me that I can see is like, okay, this is why I felt this way. Mm-hmm. This is why I felt every time she came, I didn't exist. And he's like, no, you're my number one priority. I said, I understand that that's what you want to say, but that's not how I feel. Mm-hmm. I feel third wheel. Mm-hmm. It's the two of you, and then there's me. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't quite put into words. And he's like, wow, I never saw it that way. And I said, the thing that going forward now, though, is going to be hard because I don't want you to change. I don't want your mom to change. I know for myself, though, when the two of you are together and I'm noticing that, I have to honor that feeling I'm having and leave.
Exactly. You don't have to invite that into your reality.
But I thought I had to.
Exactly.
I mean, the whole thing was just like, I have to because it's my mother-in-law. I have to because it's my husband. I have to love her because she's my mother-in-law. No, I don't. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing wrong with her. There's nothing wrong with him. Mm-mm. It's just that this is how I was feeling, and then I was blaming them for my uncomfortable feelings. Mm-hmm. Or it didn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
And now it's like,
what you got going on?
I don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, before, because years ago he was just, and he used it as a threat to me because again, we didn't know how to verbalize stuff.
Sure.
As a threat to me to take the girls and go see her. And then I was like, well, why am I even here? Why am I around?
Right.
What? You want to take my girls to go to her? It almost felt like it was an affair.
Right, exactly.
I mean, because it was like, she provides all this stuff for you. What am I? Just a piece of meat?
Yeah.
That's what I felt like.
Yeah, so many layers to that.
So many layers. But I now have the strength and the confidence to know that when she comes to visit, and I even told him, I said, I don't know what it's going to be like the next time she comes to visit. However, I know that if she comes and I start feeling this, I'm not going to tell you to change. I have to leave.
Exactly. It's not, those are the boundaries. I mean, it's so beautifully put, so beautifully illustrated. What a gift that you gave yourself and your husband.
Oh, that's what I was just like.
You're not requiring him to be anything different.
No.
And you give yourself permission.
Yes.
To be free from that.
Yes. Oh, it's like, talk about freedom. Oh my gosh. It's just like, that's the epitome of freedom. Being able to give ourselves that. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that's beautiful is that my husband understands it.
Yeah.
Instead of it being a threat to our marriage.
Yeah, like, I'm going to leave. Like, if I see it again, I'm going to leave.
Exactly.
It's just like,
no. And if you really want that, okay, great. I want you to have that because that's what you want, mm-hmm. but I can't have that anymore for myself.
Yeah.
I have to protect myself.
Oh my, that's so good. And that truly is like what I characterize as sovereignty.
Yes.
And finding your voice.
Yes.
And being confident in who you are.
Yep.
You require nobody else to be anything.
Nope.
You are only clear mm-hmm. of what you need mm-hmm. and what makes you feel the best.
Yeah.
And then you give that to yourself.
Exactly. And I think that as you're saying that, I'm glad you said that because I've had these conversations with my husband before, but he's like, well, you don't need me anymore. And it's like, the need that I was needing was not healthy. Mm-hmm. It was coming from a wound. It was coming from a dark place that was not what I needed you for. When I want you in my life now is to be my partner and go through life together, enjoying it, and you being sovereign, me being sovereign, and then coming together. But it can't happen like that if I'm not even clear on my sovereignty.
Absolutely.
And so then I can help you become sovereign, right?
It's so...
But that's that strength. That's that divine feminine strength. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't be able to teach it to our husbands.
Exactly.
Or to the men in our lives.
And to our children.
And
because
our children.
as you say that, I mean, like, I have always said to my kids, my job is to make you grow up so that you don't need me, but I hope you want me.
Exactly.
You are not supposed to need me.
No.
You're done needing me. And I remember I said this in front of my mother-in-law, and she's very much a needer. You know, like, I need you to need me kind of person. But I think that comes from a wound. It comes from an insecurity.
Sure.
And any need that we have for somebody else to be something or to require them in our lives, that comes from an insecurity.
Oh, for sure.
You're on the right track
other person,
when it's, if you want me, I want you.
Yes.
I want you. I don't need you.
Yes. That's the difference.
Exactly.
The need versus the want.
So good.
So amazing.
I love that. Lots of meaty stuff in there. Oh my gosh, how cool.
It was so cool. And then what was interesting is towards the end of the conversation, I did end up tearing up because he was like, I'm sorry. And I didn't know. And he's like he got it, you know? So then it was just like, I was allowed to release that and then be able to cry. That was a real authentic cry.
Exactly. Just a releasing cry.
A releasing cry.
Not like a, I'm so wounded,
scared.
I don't know what to do cry.
Yeah,
exactly.
it was the beautiful, the beautiful
this can
cry.
be let go.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's so good.
It was so good. I mean...
Well, and just that, I mean, that brings me back to the conversation with my husband.
Yeah.
Because the next day I was still kind of feeling a little bit like, I was really kind of
we need some
surprised
more
that you
with
still...
that. Yeah,
And I was sitting with it in the morning. I kind of shared with him, like, I don't know, I was still kind of feeling a little something from that.
Yeah.
And we talked about it a little bit more. And then I was like, no, this is mine. He's said, I'm sorry.
Right.
He said, wow, you really showed me some things I didn't see before. And now it's me. Now it's my turn to release it, let it go, forgive. And it was like just a moment of awareness of that and then breathing into that and letting it go.
Yeah.
And it is. It's kind of like you get that.
Like a
you
shift
realize,
or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, wait, okay.
Yeah.
They've done everything they can. They will. I need nothing more from them.
Right.
Now it's me. Let it go.
Yeah.
Release it.
Yeah. And we have the power to do that.
Exactly.
And we can hold on to it or not. But we choose it.
Yeah.
That's the creator beings, right? We create our realities. So.
Oh, I love it. So good.
It.
Thank you so much
Hopefully
for sharing
you
that.
got something out of that. But
Yeah.
It was awesome. Bye.
Have a good one.